I brought you a little bit of this last night, but here's some more. Yes, 23 leaders breaking their silence after the loss of their referendum on The Voice, but still pushing for truth and treaty. Rachel Perkins says the aspiration of a voice will remain. She says it mightn't be achieved by a referendum, but it will be achieved. Have a listen.
So yes, the Uluru Statement stands. Absolutely. That aspiration of a voice will remain, and it may not be achieved by referendum, but it will be achieved.
Join me to get across this and more, former Labor MP Michael Danby, Sky News contributor Kosha Garda. Well, I don't understand, Kosha. The result couldn't have been clearer, but we've got the Indigenous Affairs Minister, possible would-be Governor-General, God help us, Linda Burney, refusing to comment on the issue of treaty and basically a reportage on The Voice.
You know, we're living in, I would say, nakedly divisive times. People often point to the US maybe it being at the tip of the spear, but I wouldn't contain it just to that. It's everywhere, certainly for certain issues. And I think anything to do with inclusion and identity, which this falls under, is that, where even if the battle was won or the tactical referendum was defeated, the agenda presses on. And you're seeing it multifaceted, that there's state legislatures pushing it, there's this treaty push, it's in the culture, you know, indirectly by proxy in terms of giving preferential treatment to different groups in the corporate world, in the education sector. So I think the fight continues, and it's just going to pop up in different venues, and the other side is going to have to keep at it and can't rest on their laurels, I think.
Michael, what does Labor get about democracy?
I think that they're making a terrible mistake if they go down this road. I mean, just as with the Republic referendum, once you've lost, you ought to be graceful and say that's democracy and go on to the next issue. There's nothing against programs for assisting Indigenous Australians, particularly in the bush, particularly on the lines that Jacinta Price says against Indigenous children, but pushing these castles in the air for after you've lost a referendum 60-40. It's
And it's
mad.
part of the reason for the Smacker News poll. Anti-Semitism, the European Commission come out today and say it's as bad as it was in the 1930s. Well, we know what was happening then, obviously with the rise of the Nazis in Germany and right across the eastern part of Europe. We see all these pro-Palestinian rallies here and overseas. This is a real concern.
It is, it stuns. There are a couple of dynamics, I think, that can give us an explanation, obviously not a justification. One is, we've talked about this before, immigration and just the shift that's happened in the electorate and the demographic fabric of a lot of these countries in Europe, elsewhere. Because if you look at who's doing the protesting and where it comes from, it's not uniform, and it's not uniformly spread. And your viewers can look into where that comes from and see the answer there. The other thing, I think, is just this cultural shift. Soft on crime, soft on law and order, everything.
Soft on drugs.
Soft on drugs, and this framework of oppressors versus the oppressed that's been enabled and encouraged, and then you see that spilling out, and that's why you see these weird mashups of LGBTQ and all sorts of things mashing together with pro-Palestinian, and I think that's just all a manifestation of those dynamics coming together.
Yeah, but just on that point, you tell me how long, Michael, a gay man or a transgender woman would survive in Gaza?
Well, they're hanged publicly in the streets of Tehran. So, I mean, it's crazed. It's when I saw the slogan, Queers for Palestine, I thought it sounded like chickens for KFC.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. There's a gay-friendly march in Tel Aviv that attracts 250,000 people once a year from people all over Europe. You can't have that anywhere in the surrounding countries.